Everybody, it's Liquid Lunch on a Thursday, and we're going to have lots of fun today. It's me, Hugh, and we got Rick Cordeiro joining us again for the monthly, well, Rick, what is this? Is it, what do you call this?
Conspiracy theories, paranormal, UFOs, all the good stuff outside the box that mainstream media really doesn't want to touch. Although more and more I'm finding mainstream media is starting to talk about these kind of things, which leads some people to believe that maybe we're getting ready for the day of disclosure. But we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime.
Which is fake disclosure, right?
It'd be fake disclosure.
Project Bluebeam.
Yeah.
Right?
Bluebeam, yeah, and then there's also this voice of God technology they have, where they can broadcast voices in your head to make you think that, wow, God told me to go and jump off a bridge or something for him or whatever.
Yeah.
It was covered on one of these Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory show, the voice of God technology, which they claim the Americans are using a lot on the people of Iraq and the Middle East, to make them think that Allah is talking to them.
Hey, I saw something just this week. They had, I think, the Iraqi foreign minister, and he was doing no, not Iraqi. I think he was Syrian foreign minister, and he was, or whatever. He was doing a news conference at the UN, and he was saying that the anti-government forces were genetically modified.
Doesn't surprise me one bit. I mean, I suspect they do not, even with our soldiers here in North America, building the super soldiers, as they call them. And eventually we're going to have the cyborgs in the military, part human, part robotics. And then they're going to insert the artificial intelligence on these things as well and make them almost invincible.
Well, at least they'll have some intelligence.
Yeah, we hope.
Okay, Rick, what's on your notepad for this week?
Yeah, so recently I stumbled upon this story of a fella by the name of Dante Centauri. I love the way that name rolls off my tongue. I almost want to change my name, Rick Cordeiro, to Dante Centauri from my TV film credits. You know, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Dante Centauri. But this Dante Centauri guy, he has a book that used to belong to the KGB. It's the KGB Alien Races book that a former KGB officer who retired and was living in Portugal left and passed on to him there. This Dante Centauri guy is Portuguese but of Italian ancestry, and he has background with Portuguese military as well. And he translated this Alien Races book from Russian to English, and you can find copies of this book that you can read for yourself online. If you do Google and type in KGB Alien Races book, you'll find the book. All the pages are there, photos, illustrations. Originally, the KGB created this book in 1946 as a sort of manual and a notebook for the KGB officers to make notes and add to it and build upon. And then it's got everything in there, like all the different alien races, the spaceships they fly, where they originate from, including conversations that the KGB officers had with certain members of these extraterrestrial races. And which is really amazing stuff. So if you could post up that first picture, Chris, of the Alien Races book. Chris? There. Yeah? No, we don't have it on the monitor there. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Although that looks like that guy with the suit looks like an alien. Oh, no, wait, that was me.
You had some funny lighting going on there, right?
There it is.
Oh.
That's how the cover looks like.
Oh, my
It's
God.
of various alien races. That's the cover, and then the inside's got all the alien races.
I don't see any blue avians.
Well, they're in there. It's got the races, their bios, where they're from, whether they're benevolent or malevolent, how they have influenced human evolution over the years. And then they make mention of this group called the Council of Five, which is comprised of 5 different alien races that have been closely monitoring the evolution of humans, as well as protecting planet Earth from the evil extraterrestrials that are out there, the Council of Five. And they also make mentions of other groups like the Ashtar Command and the Federation of Planet, which is like a club that certain races have become members of. You have to reach a certain level of maturity that the humans have not reached yet, so we're not members of this race, although some of them are helping us to evolve and grow so that we can one day become members of these of the Ashtar Command and the Federation of Planets. But it's all discussed in this book. And so this Dante Centauri guy, he had a YouTube channel originally that was taken down. And 1 week before his YouTube channel was taken down, he claims that he was contacted by someone who claimed to be a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, not the Russians, not the Americans, not the Chinese, but he claimed he got contacted by someone from the Canadian Armed Forces who asked him how he got a hold of this Alien Races book. And 1 week later, his YouTube channel got taken down after he was allegedly contacted by someone from the Canadian Armed Forces. But here's the thing. The last show I talked about a group of visitors, allegedly, again, that's the magic word of today and other shows, that are living amongst the humans in Paradise, California from Alpha Centauri. The specific race of beings that are living amongst us in Paradise, California from Alpha Centauri, they are known as the Santinians.
The Santinians.
The Santinians, which derives from the Italian name of Santini, which means little saints. So I'm thinking maybe there's a conspiracy theory there, because the Santinians, that name derives from Santini, which means little saints. Then you have this guy Dante Centauri, and his last name is Centauri. I'm thinking maybe this guy is one of these Alpha Centaurians living amongst us, disguising himself as a human, but sort of like, giving us this book to look at as a sort of way to prod and poke us and steer us in the direction of, accepting and conditioning our minds to accept the idea that we are not alone in the universe, that we have been interacting with extraterrestrial life forms out there, that they have been influencing us, teaching us, inspiring our scientists, inventors, and artists, and religious leaders, and political leaders, and that we are not alone and that they're living amongst us. So I suspect he might be one of these beings from the Alpha Centauri. Now, if someone was to ask me, like, okay, if there is life out there in the universe, where would be the closest race of beings closest to Earth with humanoid features like one head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and an intelligent brain? Or most people in the know in this area say it would be in the Alpha Centauri star system, which is about 4.5 light years away from Earth.
That's the closest star to Earth,
Yeah,
right?
to Earth, with the humanoid, it's comprised of 3 stars, Alpha A, Alpha B, Alpha C. The A and B are really large stars, and Alpha C is a small red dwarf star. But the first 2 are 2 of the brightest stars in our southern skies, Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B. Now, these visitors that allegedly are living amongst us on Paradise, California, the Santinians, they come from a planet that orbits around Alpha Centauri A, and that planet is known as Matharia. Matharia. So that's the name of that planet.
Do they have a logo?
Quite possibly. I think it's somewhere in the Alien Races book. So, so when you read this Alien Races book, it's very fascinating. It's an easy read, and I read the whole thing in an hour. But there's in the end of the book, it has like conversations that some of these KGB officers allegedly had with the extraterrestrial beings. And a couple of things they talk about is how the extraterrestrials, and this is a very controversial topic, how the extraterrestrials created all the religions of the world in order to divide humanity. So again, a very controversial idea.
That's why, what do you call it? Circumcision was invented.
By the Jews? I don't know.
No, by one of these alien races, so they can always tell who was from that lineage, whatever.
Very good.
Right?
Yeah, that's very good. I never heard about that one, but that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, so that's the Alien Races book. Again, if you want, you can see this book. It's available to everyone online, free of charge. You do a Google search, KGB Russian Alien Races book, and there'll be a half a dozen links that'll give you access. Also,
Rick, I just want to ask you a question because you mentioned that these Santinians were living in Paradise, California. Now, that was one of the towns that was burnt down in the fires.
Yeah. Also, Las Vegas is where all the shootings took place, is the other city. There's actually a third city. It's somewhere in Canada, but I don't know yet exactly where in Canada that city is.
What do you mean? Where aliens live?
Where the Santinians are residing as well, as it's like a safe haven or a refuge.
Well, where did you hear there was a Canadian city? Where did you hear that?
On the dark web.
But you don't know what city?
Not yet. I suspect from people I've been talking to about this, it's either on the West Coast, somewhere in BC, but someone also told me that, the fires in California were actually started by direct energy weapons. There's evidence of it that people are uploading on YouTube video, which keep getting yanked down. But I have also some photos of these beams shooting down from the skies, targeting the homes. But there was also another forest fire in northern Ontario that some people claim were started by direct energy weapons, and they're saying that's because they were also targeting the Santinians over there as well.
Where was this fire in northern Ontario?
I have to look that one up, but it's somewhere in northern Ontario.
Like when? Within the last year?
Last year or so, yeah.
All right. Well, fire season's coming up. Some people are saying that even Fort McMurray might have been a directed energy weapon.
Where's that, Alberta?
Yeah, the big fire a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of really neat things in this book. They also mentioned something about how in the 1950s, U.S. President Eisenhower met frequently with the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill to discuss the idea of these extraterrestrials and how they can best keep this information away from the general public and prying eyes, because they wanted it to be kept a secret for whatever reasons. I don't know. They don't really specify why that is, but they do mention that Eisenhower and Churchill even created a special elite group that would meet every so often to discuss, the going-ons and visitations from these extraterrestrials. And I already talked about the Council 5, which this book talks about. And allegedly, another thing, they say in 1985, 3 alien races visited the United Nations and delivered documents and video that shows evidence of several planets within Earth's solar system that had daily average temperatures of 32 degrees Celsius and oceans like here on Earth. So there are other, what people would call exoplanets, Earth-like planets with oxygen that we can breathe, that humans can live on, with average daily temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius and oceans like the Earth. So that's the Alien Races book from the KGB. You can find this book online. There's at least a half a dozen sites with this book, with all the photos and illustrations and really neat stuff. A real mind bender. For some people, may not be ready to accept or read what is in this book, but some really crazy ideas in there nonetheless. Alrighty, sir. So how's your week going? You really good?
Yeah, it's good.
Are you getting some messages from the Ashtar man?
I want to.
Let me read your mind. Okay.
No, okay.
I'll give you the mind wipe.
Rick, I know you're from. Okay, are you from another planet yourself?
I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I know you're from Hamilton. That's kind of another.
That's kind of like another planet. I was going to ask you that in the last show, actually, if you were from another planet. That's why you have.
Well, my hometown's a little bit of another planet as well. But if I have to say I'm from another planet, I usually say Arcturus.
Arcturus. Yeah. Tell me about that one.
I don't know. I just I'm not sure why, but if I have to.
Well, my blood type is ORH negative,
yeah,
which makes me in the minority on this planet. But it's supposed to be the blood type of the ruling elite and the Illuminati and the royal bloodlines. But you don't want to look at my bank account because definitely not royal looking bank account. I want to get some more into the Alpha Centaurians, the Santinians. We already touched on a few things that I wanted to talk about. But I tried to look up where the Alpha Centaurians have been mentioned in pop culture over the years, like in movies and TV and books and comics. And if you remember the old TV show Lost in Space, those are the Alpha Centauri, Lost in Space.
Yeah.
Those guys get lost in the Alpha Centauri star system.
Oh.
This show was on TV for 3 years between 1965 and 1968. Other references of Alpha Centaurians are made on various episodes of Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, same era as Lost in Space. There seems to be a hidden agenda, I think, where this kind of stuff is being... Stop right there on Robin Williams, please, Chris, because I'm going to talk about him next. So Lost in Space, Twilight Zone, Star Trek, that whole 1960s, my favorite TV shows were from that era anyways. There seems to be some sort of hidden agenda where they always made reference to the Alpha Centaurians on Lost in Space, various episodes of Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, and more recently in James Cameron's hit 2009 film Avatar, there's also an Alpha Centauri. And then Marvel comic books, one of the members of the Guardians of the Galaxy is from Alpha Centauri, the blue character from the Guardians of the Galaxies. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Does he have feathers?
No, but he's blue and he has like a Mohican haircut. He's blue in color like the Avatar characters.
I bet he has feathers. He's probably a blue avian.
Well, some of the Alpha Centaurians are actually aquatic, where they have webbed feet, hands, fins, and gills, which allows them to live beneath our oceans, and that's why some of them allegedly live beneath the oceans here on Earth. The Alpha Centaurians with the aquatic features.
I heard there's one alien race has a webbed liver.
Yeah. You never know.
I'm not sure which one.
Yeah. Okay, now, getting back to Paradise, California, there seems to be a strong connection with Paradise, California and extraterrestrials. As mentioned, these Santinians, there was a special treaty signed between Earth and Alpha Centaurians that allows up to something like 2,000 of them to live in Paradise, California. Go back to Robin Williams, please, Chris. Thank you. That allowed them to live amongst us. The other thing about Paradise, California, you know the house that was used in E.T. the Extraterrestrial?
Yeah.
It's in Paradise, California.
That was in Paradise?
On Elliott Road.
Elliot.
And Elliott Road is the name of the kid character that befriends Elliot. Yeah, exactly. So there's another E.T. connection to Paradise, the home of E.T., which the firefighters are frantically trying to douse with water because the fires are approaching that house. There's such a historic landmark. And other thing, too...
I hope they saved the bathtub, at least.
or the closet where E.T. was dressing up as a woman. So, on a side note, I was looking up the conspiracy of Robin Williams' death.
Yes.
So I looked up his biography on Wikipedia. It says, Robin Williams, born in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
But he died in...
I don't know.
Paradise,
Really?
California, which is not Paradise, California. It's slightly northeast of Paradise.
What's it called?
Paradise K, California.
K.
Yeah, but they also had the wildfires there, so it's pretty close to Paradise. And everyone knows that Robin Williams got his big break playing the extraterrestrial called Mork from Planet Ork on the Mork and Mindy show.
You're connecting the dots, Rick.
Yeah, so E.T., Alpha Centaurians, Mork. And there's another famous person, well, famous I think, in this whole area of another noteworthy resident of Paradise, California. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of a fellow by the name of John Hutchison? Hutchison effect?
Yeah, I thought he was Canadian.
From Vancouver, British Columbia.
Yeah.
This guy right here.
He lives in Paradise?
Now he does.
What do you mean, he moved there after the fires?
Yes. No, he lived there before the fires. He's originally from Vancouver, British Columbia. Is a self-proclaimed inventor that has the knowledge of free energy, levitation, and knows how to make certain metals vanish. When the U.S. military got wind of it, they went up to his home in Vancouver, British Columbia, to visit and so that he can demonstrate firsthand these experiments. Yeah. They were impressed, so they hired him. When I first found out about him, I knew that they said that the U.S. military had hired him, but it didn't specify which branch. So I only found out recently it's the U.S. Army Intelligence. So thank God it's not the Air Force, who the cabal and deep state belong to. The Army is sort of neutral, and the Navy and Marines are on the side of the alliance. Once they hired him, he moved down to America in Paradise, California. So he's a resident also of Paradise, California, John Hutchison.
Rick, no, okay, I'm going to add some information here. I don't know if you know about this, but so that's the first I heard about that. Yeah. So they're saying directed energy weapons. What they're saying is that maybe the same technology was used in California for those fires. That was the same technology that they used on 9/11.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, here's the other thing, is that they have now documented that the Hutchinson effect was observed after, for example, the plane that went down, or supposedly went down in Ohio. Mm-hmm. There were buildings nearby, near the supposed crash site, where the Hutchinson effect was looked to have happened.
Right.
Like there were fridges. It was like a cabin.
Yeah.
And the fridges and stuff, the metal was all bent like Hutchinson effect.
Well,
stuff.
John Hutchison, he claims that all the stuff he knows, like about as far as levitation, direct energy weapons, levitation, free energy, making certain metals vanish, is when he was researching Nikola Tesla's experiments.
Yeah.
That's where he gets all these ideas from. Now, on an episode of Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theories, when they were doing an episode on John Hutchison, and they showed how this technology was warping and bending the metal. Jesse Ventura says, "Stop the video right there." It says, "I went to the warehouse to look at the samples from the 9/11 buildings, and they were warped just like the metal from the Hutchison effect."
And the other thing is that there's a common. What they've also found that in 9/11, and in crop circles, and I think John Hutchinson had the same phenomenon happen when he was doing his stuff. They found these little iron microspheres. And so somehow that if it's the same technology that the Hutchinson effect is, that was happening in 9/11, it's also happening in crop circles. They're finding these little iron microspheres. So it would be interesting to know if anybody has found any of these iron microspheres in the wake of the California wildfires.
Yeah, so that's interesting how and this is just stuff I'm stumbling upon by accident. Like originally I got the idea of the Alpha Centaurians living amongst us in Paradise, California from a YouTube show called Edge of Wonder, and they had David Wilcock as a guest. So as if that wasn't strange enough. And then I find out by chance that the home that was used in E.T. the Extraterrestrial is in Paradise, California. That Robin Williams died in Paradise Cay, California, and he was like Mork from Ork. And then John Hutchison, the Hutchison effect, has a house in Paradise, California. Everything seems to be pointing to Paradise, California. So there seems to be some connection there with Paradise, California, and these visitors from Alpha Centauri, known as the Santinians. So that's all really cool stuff. Now, the thing about how there seems to be a shadow war going on between the U.S. Air Force, who are members of the Cabal or Deep State, and the U.S. Navy, who are members of or on the side of the Alliance. There's a thing called, like when I talk about how the Nazis, all the top rocket scientists like Erich von Braun, whose birthday, by the way, was this past week, and all the top Nazi military people, when they joined up with the U.S. Air Force and NASA, that whole thing was called Operation Paperclip. There's a whole page on Wikipedia called Operation Paperclip that goes into this in great detail. And that's who, those are the guys that were have been running and been part of the U.S. Air Force and NASA since the days after World War II. But they didn't infiltrate the Navy and the Marines. So they're sort of like they're on the side of the Alliance, allegedly. And they're supposed to be the Navy Marines on the side of these Santinians from Alpha Centauri. But when the Cabal found out about them living in Paradise, they ordered the Air Force to go down there and shoot their homes down with the direct energy weapons. And that's the reason why, for the direct energy weapons, hitting their homes, because they were targeting the homes of the Santinians.
So, and only certain homes got targeted, right?
Yeah, the homes of the Santinians from Alpha Centauri.
You had certain homes that were hit, and yet the trees in the yard were
fine.
Yeah. And that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the next door house was fine.
Yeah. The thing is, what I've been finding out from this Edge of Wonder show is that some of these Santinians may have survived because their homes on the surface are like a front, because once they enter the home, there's these elevators that take them down to underground tunnel system that takes them to an underground city where they actually live, underground, not in those homes. So the homes are like a facade or a front for that's where they entered, and there's these elevators that took them down. So when you see these images of the homes flattened due to the direct energy weapons, they're saying don't worry about it because many of them were able to escape and are safe and sound, so allegedly. So
I just want to bring up something that I'm just following the synchronicity, something I saw this morning, is that the LA Times, I check that out sometimes. So we're talking about California. Yeah. Some people have said that, of course, you know about Agenda 21, or now it's called Agenda 2030, right?
What's that again about?
It's essentially, it's a global agenda.
Youth population agenda?
Not necessarily, but it's a UN initiative that is being adopted by nations and by municipalities. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in the U.S. It's happening in California. And what's happening is that, and you see it happening in Toronto. You look out the windows here, you can see it. What it is they're moving away from this idea of urban sprawl, trying to deal with the population problem, and instead concentrating on high-density urban development, which we see in Toronto, all these condo skyscrapers, right? And we see it like this is happening in Toronto. There's an office, I understand, at City Hall from the UN all about implementing this agenda. The idea is to concentrate people into urban areas, high density, and rewild the urban environment, which is also why in rural municipalities they're making it very difficult for farmers to do anything. Like, oh, you want to,
But why?
You want it because they want to, because somebody who's ever controlling things wants everyone to basically be a slave living in the cities, controlled in apartments, and they can't
Easy
go
to
out into the
control
country.
people
Meanwhile, they're
for-
going to live in their mansions and
Easy to
do
control
whatever they
people
want.
like a bird in a cage.
Absolutely, yeah. So now they're talking in California right now. They're talking about changing the state's housing policy from, like suburban single-family homes, pool in the backyard,
Wow.
like what was going on in Paradise,
Right,
California,
right.
to super high-density urban, high-rise
Wow.
living, right? And some people are saying that the fire thing, those fires were really to just get the people out of those areas so that they can, now they're making initiatives like they're rezoning the land as conservation areas, giving it to the native people and that sort of thing so that it will not be redeveloped again.
Yeah.
And that's and testing this kind of fire strategy as a way of depopulating an area that they want to keep wild.
Huh.
Just saying.
Yeah, it's.
And I just saw that this morning that there's talk now in California. They are talking about changing the official housing policy of the state to be in line with Agenda 2030.
Agenda 23. I'm gonna look into that some more. All right, so if we can go back, Chris, to the one with the red images of the Zeta Reticuli. There we go. This is also from the Alien Races book. Now, this is one of the races they covered, a Zeta Reticuli, which they claim is a species that was created by the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki allegedly are the ones that created the humans to be a slave race on Earth, to mine the Earth of its golds and minerals for the planet Nibiru, or otherwise known as Planet X. So the Anunnaki, this book claims, created the Zeta Reticuli, and then they also created a subspecies of the Zeta Reticuli to look more human, and that subspecies then became the pharaohs of ancient Egypt with those elongated skulls. And that's what, so stuff like this is talked about in this Alien Races book. A real mind bender, even if none of the stuff is true and it was all science fiction, it's a good read if you like this kind of stuff. But it's a real mind bender. Some people may not be ready to accept some of the ideas or topics discussed in there. Like, for example, like I said, controversial topic of how they claim certain extraterrestrial races created all the religions of the world with the agenda of dividing the humans and keeping us at war with each other.
Why did they want to get rid of Akhenaten?
The humans?
I'm just reading here.
Yeah.
No, that the reptilians removed Akhenaten from power in Egypt.
Well, because like the certain alien races are always at war with each other. The book also talks about how over the years there's been battles in Earth's skies between the various alien races, and one of them was between these Zeta Reticuli and the reptilians, reptilian shapeshifters, who some people allege live amongst us and are high-ranking members of our governments worldwide. That's another story for another day, I guess. But yeah, so it's all good stuff. If anybody out there is a fan of Star Trek, this past week, if you can post up Mr. Spock for us, Chris, thank you very much. Great job, by the way, Chris. Mr. Spock, okay, it's a small, I thought it'd be larger, but did you know Mr. Spock actually had 3 ears?
3 ears?
Yeah, a right ear, a left ear, and a final front ear. I love Spock and Star Trek. I'm a big Trekkie.
Me too.
This past week was both the birthdays of William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Both were born in 1931, 4 days apart. William Shatner, March 22, and Leonard Nimoy, March 26. So that means Captain Kirk, William Shatner, he celebrated his 88th birthday this past week.
He's 88?
88. Yeah, William
Wow.
Shatner. It looked pretty good for 88.
Well, you know.
And so, but he was born 4 days before Leonard Nimoy. Both were born in 1931. March 22 and March 26th,
No,
respectively.
you know Leonard Nimoy is dead. Did you know that?
I know that, sir.
Not just Spock died. Leonard Nimoy
Leonard
died.
Nimoy, yeah.
I just found that out this week. I didn't realize.
Yeah, but you're a
that he
big
was
Spock.
dead.
You're a big Spock fan, I hear.
I think it's a Mandela
You
effect.
must have been shocked when you must have been devastated when you heard that he was already dead and you didn't even know about it until this week.
I wasn't dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
old news.
well, that's the thing about being an actor in the films. A lot of actors like being actors and working on a film because it's a way of becoming immortal. Because when you're on film, you almost live on forever. You're immortalized in film. So he's still with us. You can watch old episodes of the original Star Trek series, or you can watch The Wrath of Khan with Ricardo Montalban. You know, the Mexican Ricardo Montalban against the Canadian William Shatner in outer space.
You know what's funny though? In that movie,
Yeah.
they had Ricardo Montalban. They had William Shatner, and they had who's that other big Canadian actor?
James Doohan,
No, the guy that was in Sound of Music.
Christopher Plummer.
Christopher Plummer
From Toronto.
played a Klingon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, and Christopher Plummer and William Shatner used to work together in Stratford, Ontario.
That's right.
Doing the Shakespeare Festival.
With Lauren Green.
And here they were.
With Lauren Green, the leader of Battlestar Galactica.
And in that scene on that Wrath of Khan, I think it was Wrath of Khan. But anyways, they're quoting Shakespeare. And the funny thing was they'd worked together doing Shakespeare.
It's funny. Funny how things all seem to go around.
Yeah.
You know, like the Canadians, we rule in outer space. So we got William Shatner from Star Trek and James Doohan. And then we have Christopher Plummer, you said. And then Lauren Green was, we know from Bonanza, but he was also the leader on Battlestar Galactica.
That's right.
And then Darth Vader, Christopher Hayden, what's his name? Who played the Vancouver guy, or Toronto guy, who played the Darth Vader.
What?
He's a Canadian guy.
You mean in the suit, but not the voice?
Not the voice. The
'Cause
voice
the
is
voice
James Earl
was-
Jones.
right.
But the guy, the actor, before he wore the mask, the young Darth Vader, was a Canadian actor.
Yeah.
And then we also have John Candy and Rick Moranis from Spaceballs. So, like the Canadians, we not only rule planet Earth, we rule in outer space.
Well,
as
not
well.
only that, Justin Trudeau recently announced that Canada was going to the moon.
That Canada's going to the moon. I know that
Canada's going to the
USA says, Pence, the vice president, says, we want to go to the moon by 2024 because the Chinese have started going back. They landed a craft earlier this year on the dark side of the moon. So once that happened, the U.S. says, we got to go back. Because the last time the Americans went there was 1974, believe it or not. Allegedly, because some people believe we never went to the moon. Some people say, well, the stuff you see on TV is fake. And then you have like a guy like Dr. Stephen Greer says, well, we went to the moon, except the stuff they showed us on TV was fake. And then other people say the stuff we saw on TV was produced by Stanley Kubrick, the guy who produced A Space Odyssey 2001. Right?
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Stanley Kubrick is the guy who also produced Eyes Wide Shut. He died exactly 666 days before January 1st, 2001. And he was also the producer of 2001 A Space Odyssey.
And
So
that was his confession,
that was his
right?
confession, yeah.
Because
And there's no such thing as coincidence.
and you know what else I heard? Or maybe I heard it from you, Rick. I'm not sure, but that the movie AI
The artificial intelligence?
actually was Stanley Kubrick was supposed to do that movie, and for some reason I don't know if he died. I don't know if that was out before or after Eyes Wide Shut, but Steven Spielberg ended up finishing that movie. But it was originally supposed to be Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah. Finally, the last picture I want to show is the one with the large alien face, Chris. That one there, yeah. The face I make when someone says aliens don't exist. This is the face I make. So please, if you ever meet me in person, don't tell me in my face that aliens don't exist, because this is what I'll show you, all right? So be very careful.
Well, Rick. Is there anything else for us today?
That's it.
We didn't even get into the mud flood.
Oh, well, we can get into it right now.
Well, can we?
Sure,
All right,
sure.
briefly, and then let's wrap it up.
Sure.
Just because we're going to have you back, of course, next month again.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we'll do more. But
Sure.
mud flood.
Yeah, mud flood and Zeta Reticuli. And, yeah.
Yeah, my friend Stevie and I were going to go around the city documenting the Tartarian architecture.
Uh-huh. Like the old City Hall?
Old City Hall, Queen's Park,
Yeah.
the
Even
Flatiron Building.
Yeah.
Building. They've torn a lot of it down.
I know the original City Hall now, when they tore down, when you look at pictures of it, it looks very similar to the old
Oh,
city hall.
Hamilton. That's probably where those tunnels that you speak of.
Where
They're
they come
probably
from?
Tartarian. In some ways, it makes more sense to build a city where Hamilton is.
Do you know those tunnels in Hamilton? When you see images of it, there's actually that tunnel is made with brickwork.
I want to see those images.
Yeah, well, the floating. Somebody posted up video of it because they actually went down there when he wasn't supposed to. They went down there with a camera,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. It's like all this network of tunnels underground. But when I was doing security in Hamilton at a company called Slater Steel, overnight security, my security partner there was telling me that he was stationed at the Armories on James Street North, which is a military base in downtown Hamilton. And one time he had to go down a large elevator that was large enough to fit 2 big military trucks, and he had to go down a certain level to get his hair cut. And there was another military guy who was in charge of running the elevator. So as the elevator is going down, he asked the guy running the elevator, like, how far down does this thing go? He goes, the equivalent of a 30-story building, but underground. He goes, wow. But he says, well, what exactly is all the way down there? He says, okay, I'll show you. So they went down there. It's all these military vehicles that they store down there. And there's also the underground railway network beneath the streets of Hamilton. And he says, well, why are all these underground railway networks down here in Hamilton? He goes, well, because back in the day during World War II, because Hamilton was the center of steel production in Canada, the steel making and manufacturing switched gears and started building all of the vehicles and ammunition and the bombs and guns for the military effort in Hamilton because of the steel.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the steel mills and factories were connected underground via this railway network, also connected to the Armories, the military base on James Street, and also to McMaster University where the nuclear reactor is, and also below the City Hall in Hamilton. To confirm this, there was a factory in Hamilton that was recently leveled down called Camco, a company that used to build appliances like stoves and refrigerators. And
What were they called?
Camco.
Camco. They're in
Right near the where McMaster Innovation Park
Yeah,
is.
I know, but they do something with nuclear products, don't they? Camco. Anyway,
They did appliances for refrigerators and stoves. But they went out of business because of stuff like robotics and cheap labor in third world countries. So a construction company came in and leveled the building.
Yeah.
And one of the bulldozers accidentally fell through a hole down the pit and landed on top of one of the railway networks down there.
One of the secret
railway
tunnels. Yeah. Okay.
And they didn't know, but when they got down, they said, what the hell, all these railway networks down here? The construction crew had no idea about it, so they found out by accident. And they made headlines in the Hamilton Spectator newspaper, but then it got kind of like swept under the rug and nobody wanted to really touch it anymore.
Rick, can you bring some photos
of the railways?
Of those underground rail tunnels in Hamilton?
No, I don't have the photos of the railway, but there was some videos that somebody posted online of the tunnels minus the railway.
Can we see some of that? Maybe next time?
Maybe next time, yeah.
Yeah, because that's very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I grew up in Hamilton. I just lived down the street from the headquarters for the Freemasons, the Grand Lodge of Canada, and next door was the Scottish Rite Castle. So that whole, and then just down the street was Westdale High School, which in Hamilton was known as Celebrity High because Martin Short, Dave Thomas went there, NHLer Harry Howell, members of famous rock bands, even like a guy like, I believe, the guy who produced U2 and Peter Gabriel that had a studio in Grand Avenue Studios.
Daniel Lanois.
Lanois. They all went to Westdale High School. It was known as Westdale High School because, just down the street is the Grand Lodge of Canada, or the headquarters of the Freemasons, and that's where all the Freemasons sent their kids to. And so that's why a lot of them became famous celebrities because, when you're a Freemason, you got connections to certain people in entertainment and various aspects of our world, and so it's like having the American Express card. The membership has its benefits.
Hamilton's got a funny vibe, and it's just interesting that the headquarters of Freemasonry for Canada is in Hamilton.
Yeah, you would think it would be like Montreal, Toronto. No, it's in Hamilton. Like, why Hamilton? Well, maybe because of all the steel mills and the manufacturing and.
Well, at one point, Hamilton was could have potentially been the big city.
It was rivaling Toronto in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and it was attracting all this heavy industry from all around the world, like International Harvester, Westinghouse, Procter & Gamble, Levi Strauss, all these big companies from around the world, because Hamilton was advertising that they had the cheapest hydroelectric power on the planet, because Hamilton is surrounded by 100 waterfalls, and they were tapping into the power of the waterfalls, which allowed them to sell the hydroelectric energy at a very low price, lower than anybody on the planet. But then over the years, these companies have had to move out because the price of electricity went through the roof in Ontario. I'm thinking, well, they still have access to these waterfalls in Hamilton that they can tap into for the hydroelectrical power. So why did it go right through the roof when back in the day they were able to attract all these companies to town because they had the cheapest hydroelectric power? So it's kind of strange how that works out.
Well, okay, Rick. So thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to come in.
And look forward to our conversation next
Yeah,
time.
I enjoyed the opportunity to discuss these ideas and on my journey to enlightenment and expanding our minds.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Okay, so Liquid Lunch, we got more coming up, so stay tuned. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.
We'll give you the mind wipe like the Alpha.
Yeah, we'll do the old Jedi mind. Jedi mind trick. These
Or
are
I'll
the
wave
droids you're looking for.
Or I'll wave like Queen Elizabeth. Maybe when she waves like this, she's doing a mind wipe to people. Like
Maybe.
she's doing the Queen Elizabeth mind wipe.
Bye, everyone.